Hi, I'm Brian Moran, founder of Government CIO. Welcome to Government CIO Magazine.
What would help most? Couple of points. First, it really is a business model change. And anytime you have a business model change, we all struggle with that, right? So in some sense, ourselves here in the IT organization, together with the procurement organization, together with the legal organization, our general counsel, we're all feeling our way a bit as to how to make this work in this new environment, what should be the contract model, how do we negotiate these deals. So these early ones, if you will, we are learning as we go. That being said, I think we're finding that it doesn't take a year, especially on these commodity IT ones. Again, we're trying to buy things that are standard service level agreement types of systems that are offered in the public space already. We're not trying to necessarily create new things yet, although we may get into some of that as we mature. So we're finding that as long as you have existing vehicles in place that we can leverage, we're able to do this in a matter of 3 to 6 months. Maybe still not as agile or as fast as we'd like, but still, that's pretty good. And I think we'll get better as we learn this model. One other point I would say is the funding mechanisms also are shifting. As we draw more and more to enterprise services, commoditized services, we're working with our CFO organization on setting up the right times of funding mechanisms. So leverage of working capital accounts as an example, in order to draw the funds together in an expeditious way, so that we can offer these to all of our components and do that more easily. But I would say right now we're in that 3 to 6 month range for turning on new services through existing vehicles. Obviously, if we're having to compete for a whole new vehicle, then we're probably in a year, 9 months to a year. Actually, the memo that came out from Director Liu on CIO authorities, then buttressed by comments from Steve, have been very helpful to me in particular. I have issued a memo recently myself to the component CIOs, the CIOs that, if you will, live within each of the components of DHS and have dotted line responsibility or reporting to myself. I issued them a memo specifically about IT infrastructure and commodity IT, and what my expectations were of how they would leverage enterprise IT, commodity IT that we're providing here across DHS. And that builds on the memo that came out from Director Liu on CIO authorities. So I'm already seeing the benefits of that memo. I think it is the right thing to do, by the way, Bill. This isn't just about me wanting to have more authority or more power. Commodity IT is something we need to leverage our buying power within DHS. And we're only going to do that if we all play together well and all of the components, if you will, leverage these capabilities. And that's really what this is all about. First, I should say that I'm a big believer in the 25-point plan as my role, of course, here as the CIO at DHS, but also in my role as the Vice Chair of the Federal CIO Council. This is something we need to complete. Within DHS itself, we have our own CIO Council, so every 2 weeks for 2 hours, we bring together all of the component CIOs together with myself and my direct reports to work these kinds of issues. So we have been, if you will, working with the component CIOs. How is it that they can then, in turn, carry out the 25-point plan within their components, partnering with us where it makes sense, right? So some of the examples that I would cite include the, if you will, beginning to promulgate the tech stack model, okay, down to the component government CIOs. We're in the process of planning to do that. A couple of the CIOs have stepped up and said we want to be first. So just as we've started to implement or have implemented the TechStat program here for program reviews, we're carrying that on, and within the next couple of months, the first program or TechStat should be carried out within component level. That's one example. Another example would be pretty much have migrated to all IT programs now are doing incremental development, if not agile development. All right, so we don't have them all doing agile yet. Some of them are, but all of them need to be moving to how do they release new functionality at least every 6 months, and that's pretty much now embedded in everything we're doing, even at the component level. Another example of a win of the 25-point plan would be looking at the implementation of integrated program teams. Okay, so this idea of us pulling together and having the program manager together with technical staff partnering with the contracts or procurement organization in order to really form an integrated program team for the delivery of IT capabilities. And we're implementing that model not just here at headquarters, but again at all of the components. And then, of course, the cloud-first policy is part of the 25-point program. I think we've talked about a number of our cloud-based services that are being rolled out, not just here at headquarters, but of course implemented by the components themselves, leveraging what we're putting in place here across DHS, both our public cloud services, as I mentioned, as well as our private cloud services through our enterprise data centers. So I think I think we really are living this, and we're really working as a team. One last point about the CIO Council that I chair with all the component CIOs. In June, we had an offsite, and we've done this the last 3 years now, and we got together for 2 days to really lay out what's next fiscal year, or the fiscal year we've just begun, going to look like. So we set in place a set of high priority initiatives. Many of them align with the 25-point plan. Okay, so what are the things that we are collectively as a council here in DHS going to execute this fiscal year? We have great agreement around those. We've got project plans put in place and responsible owners for every one of those, and we're carrying those out now throughout the year, just as we did last year. We had a really good report card last year. I think of the about 25, no, it wasn't 25, 22, I believe, high priority initiatives that we set here in DHS, we were able to carry out all but 2 of them. So I felt pretty good about our ability to execute those, and I feel just as good about the set we've put in place for this fiscal year and our ability to execute against those as a team. A couple things. Obviously, continuing our data center consolidation initiative. So we are looking to close about 10 data centers this coming fiscal year. So that's a big lift, but we've got plans in place to do that. I mentioned implementing email as a service for those 100,000 users. So that is definitely one of the ones that's top of the list. Continuing to enhance our governance processes, both program governance, so making sure that those very critical IT programs are executing well, and we've got the right stakeholders, if you will, at the table helping make sure those things are executing, as well as what I call portfolio governance. So looking at where do we have cross-cutting functions within DHS, and how do we rationalize those? A couple of examples. We have more than 20 what we call common operating pictures in this department, or COPS. And those are systems that support, you walk into a response center, like a FEMA, Emergency Response Center, and you see the large displays on the walls and all the data feeds coming in. That's really a common operating picture. We have them scattered throughout this department because of our mission. We really don't need 22 of those, though. We really need to, if you will, rationalize those, come down to a single architecture, and then implement those COPS against that architecture. And that's really what this governance framework is meant to do. So that's just a few of the examples that we're working on right now, some of the highest priorities that we're